Welcome to UFC Knockout. Tonight we're previewing UFC 98, which sees Rashad Evans defend his light heavyweight crown against Lyoto Machida, and then there's a really intense grudge match between Matt Serra and Matt Hughes. It promises to be an awesome show on May the 23rd in Las Vegas. I'm joined by the Sun's MMA analyst Jo Kenrick tonight. So Jo, main event, Lyoto, Rashad, what are we feeling? Unbeaten records on the line for both men, first and foremost, but secondly, the small matter of a light heavyweight title defence for Rashad, the first one.
And what two different styles of fighters. You've got Rashad Evans, who seems almost proud of the fact that he's got no belts, no rankings, no titles, apart from that light heavyweight crown. And then the Dragon, Shotokan black belt, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, judoka. And we were recently doing a bit of research on him and found out he was also a sumo champion about 18, 19. A technical fighter, technically brilliant fighter, some people have said boring, and then Evans, he's a showman. Comes out, he wants to give the crowd what they're looking for.
Very much become a showman in the last couple of fights, really. I mean, we hadn't really seen that side of things prior, probably to up until the Michael Bisping win at UFC 78. Eked out the decision win against him then. Then he's obviously come out and battered Chuck Liddell. One of the most brutal knockouts we saw last year, UFC 88 in Columbus. Awesome. I mean, that really put Rashad on the map as someone who isn't just a wrestler. He's really evolved in the last couple of fights.
I think that's probably down to he's made the decision to evolve, because he came from almost purely wrestling background and, by his own description, street fighting background. He's put the effort in, he's gone into training camps, he's pulled in people who can teach him what he needs to know. And he says about his own fighting style that he fights and he trains specifically for that opponent. So he wants to go after whatever is your weak area, whatever it is that you're not good at. What is the Dragon not good at? What's his strategy going to be for this fight? I don't know. It's
going to be an interesting matchup, isn't it? You've mentioned, the Shotokan karate background of Lyoto. A lot of people have kind of questioned whether or not he is somebody the UFC can look towards to carry the company further down the line in the way that Chuck Liddell, Tito Ortiz have. They're very kind of massive personality, those two. Lyoto not so much, but against Thiago Silva we saw the first knockout in I think 6-7 fights. Awesome finish, wasn't it?
And I was not a huge fan of Lyoto before that fight. Kind of said, yes, his technical brilliance is absolutely awe-inspiring, but where's the rest? Where's the killer instinct? What have we got to see? I was there ringside at that fight. My God, he had it in spades, and he has some real charisma. I think probably for him one of the problems has been the language barrier. His English is improving massively. It makes him much easier to market to people. And like we've said more than one occasion, the UFC isn't just about sport fighting, it's about the pay-per-view, it's about the customers. Now I think he's starting to build the kind of personality that you can hang a fight on.
Absolutely, he could be the future of the UFC, couldn't he? He really is that good. I mean, a lot of guys say he's got this evasive style, he doesn't like getting hit. If you're a fighter, you don't want to get hit. You want to, prolong your career. It's a great strategy.
One of the things that we praise Anderson Silva about so much is being able to wait for his moments, how to hit without being hit, how to be somebody who can't be touched. This is pretty much exactly what Lyoto is doing. Slightly less popular maybe, but I think he's definitely growing in respect across the community.
We've mentioned both guys prior to maybe their last couple of fights, haven't been known for their explosive knockout ability. But obviously that's changed recently in the last sort of 12 to 18 months. A lot of their wins have come via decisions. I think Rashad's got 6 decision victories out of 13, and Lyoto's got 8 out of 14. It could go either way, couldn't it? It could be an explosive fight, fingers crossed, or could it be another decision which the fans don't want to see?
They both need to remember that they are the headliners of this, and I would be hugely disappointed to see it go to another decision. Unless, of course, it's a fantastic matchup and nobody's getting the upper hand. There are good decision fights and bad decision fights. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that Lyoto is really enjoying having more attention, having more respect. He certainly looked like he enjoyed knocking out Silva. I think both of them are going to go in there and take it to the wire.
So Jo, if I had to call you on it, Lyoto or Rashad, who takes it?
6 months ago, I never would have thought I'd say this, but I'm with the Dragon on this.
Do you see it going to the judges, or do you think it will be a TKO?
No, I think it will be submission.
Okay, all right, I think I'll agree with you on that one. Now moving on to the grudge match, we've waited to see this for, 18 months, I think it is?
Yep.
2007, UFC 79, it was all set up. Matt Hughes, Matt Serra, they hate each other, these guys. Matt Serra had to pull out with a back injury. We saw GSP step in, and we all know what happened there. Are you interested in this fight? Does it excite you? Have you wanted to see this?
Yes and no. It's only the grudge match factor that makes me want to see these two guys fight. On every other level, I think they're both fantastic fighters, but the sport has evolved beyond them, beyond the styles that they each bring to it. And, 35, it's a young man's game. I don't think either of them are really going to be exciting, explosive fighters at this point of their career, but they hate each other so much. You want to see that.
Do you think there's more pressure on Matt Hughes, ex-welterweight champion? I think he's fought 50 times, 43 wins, only 7 defeats. Matt Serra's 9-5 record. Hughes has got a lot more to lose in this.
Yes, the expectation is all on Hughes. Most people think he's going to win. He thinks he's going to win. And what next for him? If he loses this, does he stay in the game? Who else in that division is he realistically going to beat? Who's going to want to take a fight against him? Well, that's the big
talking point, isn't it? I mean, Hughes is he's only won, I think, one out of his last 3 or 4 fights.
Yeah.
And you've got Matt Serra, who, he has got this. Well, we know he's got a puncher's chance. We saw what he did against GSP a couple of years ago. So, I mean, if Hughes were to lose this, it could be curtains. It's his last fight on the UFC contract that he's got at the moment as well. He's already admitted he's going to make the decision at the end of this fight whether or not he stays fighting, full-time as a pro fighter, or if he's going to perhaps move into coaching. There's a lot of pressure on Matt Hughes.
And less so on Matt Serra. There should be on him. What are we saying? He's had 13 minutes of fighting time in the last 2 years?
I think it's 13 minutes in 2 years, yeah.
Right. He hasn't, he's talked a lot. He hasn't had a lot of acting to back that up. But ironically, the pressure is all on Matt Hughes. He's in line for the Hall of Fame. He's, the great American hero. Will be very interesting to see what his strategy is. I imagine the game will end up on the ground.
It's definitely not going to be a stand-up war, is it? I mean, Matt Hughes, great wrestling. Serra, like we mentioned earlier, I think you said it's Renzo Gracie. He's the first American to win.
He gave a black belt too, and you don't get a BJJ black belt out of the Gracie family for playing around. He likes to think of himself as a submission fighter, Matt Serra. So I imagine we'll be watching the two of them on the ground. And then what does it come down to? Who's got the better cardio? Who's got those grappling skills? We know Matt Hughes.
He's awesome on the ground, isn't he? I mean, he's a massive, massive brute of a man.
And his ground and pound, which I think is something that Serra needs to be worried about if he does get trapped.
So obviously the hatred between these two guys stems from even prior to The Ultimate Fighter 6. Matt Serra has come out and said he was watching a season of The Ultimate Fighter 2 where Matt Hughes, I think it was Rich Franklin, were both team coaches. And he just got really, really frustrated at the kind of so-called perceived arrogance Hughes has got in front of some of the younger fighters. And I mean, he does come across as quite cocksure in a lot of what he says, but he can back that up. He's been the welterweight champion. He's defended the title 8 or 9 times, I think it is. I mean, is there anything wrong with Hughes' approach?
Depends on who you ask. What's interesting is that they were briefly friends. 2005, they were training together, trying to help each other out. I think maybe what did it was that Hughes publicly said that Serra got lucky in the GSP fight. And that's got to be a sore topic. A lot of people have said it, a lot of people believe it, and with one lucky punch, that's got to hurt. That
is the main person Matt Serra's beaten though, isn't it? I mean, he hasn't really been... Hughes has been in against the best. He's been in against Royce Gracie, he's been against BJ Penn, GSP, Frank Trigg. He's been in with some of the best guys around. Serra really has only been in against GSP.
So if Hughes is arrogant, he's got the goods to back it up. He kind of deserves to be. There's been a lot said about Serra takes his sense of humour the wrong way. He gets offended by the dry wit of Matt Hughes.
Serra's a lot more bolshy. He's got that New York kind of straight-in-your-face attitude, isn't he? Whereas, Matt Hughes, country boy, they're poles apart, personality-wise. They are. If I had to call you on it, who's going to walk away victorious?
I am going to go with my heart on this one. If he plays it right, if he keeps thinking the whole time, Matt Serra.
Okay, how do you see it finishing?
If my boy wins, then we'll go either submission or TKO.
Okay, I'm gonna completely disagree with you. I think Matt Hughes will definitely win this. He'll dominate Serra, get on top. Second round, he'll just ground it out. It'll be a ground and pound decision. Hughes is going to take this for sure. Okay. Last fight on his UFC contract, he's going to go out in style, seal the legacy. Good night. Thank you very much. I think we're going to witness the end of a legend. Sadly for some, but I think he's definitely going to take the win over Serra. There's a lot to look forward to at UFC 98 next Saturday night in Las Vegas. Keep up to date with all the action All the post-match fight reports on thesun.co.uk/UFC.